I will introduce you the next James Bond in the ranking. So you will see there will be some surprises. So Goldeneye, for a long time I didn't like this movie, but with the time I like it, but it was not my favorite. I know the public who like Bond movies with Brosnan. Most of time they say it is their preferred one, but it's not. I like it because we discover Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, and it was marvelous to see him. After the Dalton period, we were looking forward to having real James Bond, so Bond played by Brosnan brings a sense of humor, actions, elegance, and I like especially the James Bond girls, and especially Famke Jensen. She's one of the best villain James Bond girls. She's completely mad in this one. She made a good performance. The good James Bond girl is incredible too. She has a strong temper in that. The main villain did the job, impressive in that. But the defect in this movie, it is beginning when Bond tried to catch the plane in the air. It was completely too much, too much. After that, I will say The Spy Who Loved Me. It's a very good movie with Roger Moore. Uh, of course, everything is in a good way in this one. You have very good villains. You have Stromberg, played by Kurt Jürgens. He was one of the best villains in the franchise. He's crude, cold. He has no emotion when he kills people. And we see for the first time Jaws. Jaws is an iconic henchman of the James Bond movies. We will see as well the James Bond girl who will become Ringo Starr's wife. She is not a silly girl in this one. She was in competition with James Bond, so it was interesting in that. And you have gadgets, actions, sense, and of course the sense of humor of Roger. And sometimes Roger could be a very tough guy, hard to boil, when especially he dropped off one of Stromberg henchmen from the top of a building. It was not really easy in this list because I like all the James Bonds coming, but I have to make a choice, and after that I will say Goldfinger. Goldfinger, for a long time, it was one of my favorite James Bond, and when I saw it a few years ago, the movie became old, and but it's a very good movie, of course. It's one of the best with Sean Connery. But about the villain, Goldfinger, sometimes he looks a bit silly, not really serious. He is completely mad, but sometimes a little bit silly. About the James Bond girls, Pussy Galore, of course, she's a iconic, very good James Bond girl, played by Honor Blackman. She was playing as well in the Avengers. and we can see Sean in his best, in a good fighting sense, and there are some gadgets, and we see Q as well with the Aston Martin. No, it was a good movie, but not my prefer of Sean Connery movies. After that, Dr. No. Dr. No, it's a fantastic movie. For a first James Bond movie, the level was high. There was no gadgets, but it was beginning of James Bond, so they were trying to build the character, and it was success. Success. There was a lot of suspense in that. The villains were interesting. Even the henchmen and women we see for a few minutes, like the cab driver and the photograph, and of course. Then the doctor who put the spider in the room of James Bond, and of course we asked during the movie who can be this famous Doctor No who scared the people, the staff he used. No, it was good, and there was good pictures as well. It was located in Jamaica, I think, and of course, Ursula Andress. She was gorgeous, especially when she got out the sea with her shells. No, it's a real good movie. The next James Bond in the list will be on Her Majesty Secret Service. I know people don't like too much George Lazenby as James Bond, but I think he did a great job. It wasn't easy to succeed Sean Connery, who was incredible in the skin of James Bond, but George did a great job. And the movie is fantastic. You have the introduction, which is very good, with a good fighting scene between Bond and the henchman of a Corsican godfather we will discover after the role. And in this one, James Bond will marry for the first time, but I didn't say more for the people who haven't seen the movie. And there was great action scenes, especially there was a sky scene and Bob Slag scene. The pictures were nice. I think the movie was located in Switzerland, so there was very nice. There were very nice pictures of mountains, and he was fit enough to play James Bond. He was good-looking man, dark hair like Sean Connery. He was smart, and of course, in this James Bond, you have a great music theme played by Louis Armstrong. It was very good music theme, one of the best. And when you have this kind of music, you can be sure this James Bond has many chance to be one of the best. It's my opinion. And you have interesting characters in this Bond, especially villains. We don't know if they are villains or good people. For example, James Bond will be the ally of the Corsican godfather. The Corsican godfather is the father of the girl James Bond will marry. And there was moments of sadness, but I didn't say more of that, especially in the end. You will find out. And the inconvenience with James Bond, it was a bit long, and especially there was scenes when Bond have met over girls, and he was wearing the kilt. I don't really understand why they put this kind of sense in that, but in general, this James Bond is very good, underrated. I don't know why. I know George Lazenby is not Sean Connery, but it's not easy to succeed Sean Connery, I must say. And he did a great job. Well, let's go to From a View to a Kill, which is the next in my list. From a View to a Kill is a movie people don't like too much because Roger Moore was very old in that. And it is sure it was old, but he did a great job. We can see in scenes there was a statman who played instead of Roger because it was too hard to play. And you can see in his face that he was old. But the villains are great. All the villains in the movie are great. You have Grace Jones, who played James Bond girl, but when we see the scenes, she was more like a tough guy than a girl, sexy girl. She's a bit sexy, but not as sexier than the other ones. And you have the main villain played by Christopher Walken. He was fantastic. Christopher Walken, anyway, is a great actor, and when he played this villain, it was a delight. It was a delight. He was psychotic in it. He was laughing when he was killing people. We have never seen that in other James Bonds. And he was completely mad, crazy. My God, a great performance from this actor. And of course, the other characters, especially villains, were good as well, like that one played by Patrick Beauchot, who will play later the uncle of Jarod in the series. The other James Bond girls, especially the bad James Bond girls, did a great job as well. But the inconvenient was the good James Bond girl played by Tanya Roberts. She's sexy as hell, no problem about that, but she's very, very bad comedian. And it was the weakest link with the edge of Roger Moore in that, but in this movie, everything was okay for me. It is high in the ranking because for the first time I've been to cinema to see a James Bond, and I was a child of 10 years old at this moment. And when I've been to the cinema to see a James Bond movie alone, I was feeling like an adult. So it was great souvenir. That's why it is as well so high in my ranking. And more than that, you have the song, which is one of the best songs of all the James Bond movie history. So when you have this criteria as well of quality, you can be sure it could be a good James Bond.